back to the cardamom, cinnamon. Very good for your coffee. So, let's get started. I'm going to try to get on here. See if the vocals are coming. Yeah, it's still a little legs behind with the technology, which is fine as long as you guys can hear me. If you're on here, please say good morning. I love to say good morning to you guys. I love to say hi, and I also love to see your comments. But for some reason, it's not showing me who's on here when I stream, so I don't know. Perhaps, I don't know. Something's going on with the streaming. But anyway, let's get started. So I'm reading this book, The Healing Through Dark Emotions, and this is by Miriam Greenspan. And it's such a good book, right? It's the wisdom of grief, fear, and despair. And I like that it says wisdom because we can get a lot of wisdom from all of those emotional states of being. Good morning. Who is that? Say good morning so I know that it's you. Haha. I don't know, but it keeps pausing on the... it's good morning, Rick. Okay, so I'm gonna get into telling stories. So this is the next piece of it, right? Telling stories. And so basically our entire construct of life is based on a story. And people don't realize this, right? They think, what is truth? You know, if you started to dig deeper, you know, people are so very bound and held down to their ways of thoughts and the way they think, and that their thoughts are reality, and that's, you know, that's the only reality. And the truth is that stories are what have shaped and molded what we see in society. It's the stories that have been told, and so we create the story and we create the storyline, and everything that we see today in terms of what humans have made is just a story come to life, not necessarily truth with a capital T. So again, it's looking at what is truth, what is your truth, and how do you engage that. So telling stories. Many years ago, I taught English composition to college students. During that time, I discovered the power of first-person narrative as a way of learning. Students who wrote about their lives were able to make connections that were central to understanding not only themselves, but the world. Stories are the way that we learn about the world as children. And as they continue to be a good way to learn, as adults. We may forget any number of theories, ideas, facts, and figures, but no one forgets a good story. No one forgets a good story. So I think about the telenovelas. You can totally repeat what happened, right, on your novelas or your Good Morning Radio Burlesque. You can go and you can repeat whole storylines from drama TV, right? It's like these storylines play out and you're like, oh, and it's funny because my mom's like this. She'll be like, and Olivia and this person. And I'm like, Mom, I don't know who these people are. But it doesn't matter. It's the storyline, right, that she's telling me. Talking about how this storyline is playing out, talking about how the story is, you know, what it's doing. And so it's kind of funny because it's like the storyline itself is, you know, getting played out, and we ourselves attach ourselves and we understand the storyline. So we're like, oh yeah, I can totally repeat that storyline. So those are the things that we remember, right? The telenovelas, that's funny. Okay. Stories of depression, addiction, anxiety, abuse, divorce, phobias, incest, illness, and other common emotional struggles. All of these stories have been disguised to protect confidentiality. Somewhere in these stories, you may find yourself. Okay. Okay. We may forget a number. Sorry, I think I just skipped over something. Okay, we learn about the world as children and adults. We may forget any number of theories, ideas, or facts, but we never forget a good story. As a privileged companion to hundreds of people bravely journeying through grief, despair, and fear, I have heard many stories. And that's what she was saying. Some of the stories were depression, addiction, and all of these things. We ourselves have heard these stories, right? We, you know, even in our families and whatnot, we, you know, people tell us the stories. And we remember. However, these stories are not written in professional voice alone. I speak also as a fellow traveler. Most of what I know best about the healing wisdom of dark emotions I've learned the hard way by suffering through my own misery mindfully. So, suffering through her own misery mindfully. In other words, everybody has the suffering. But when you mindfully go through it yourself, right, the opportunity, the golden nuggets that are there for you always being exposed, right? So she's just saying that she herself has been through it. Okay, this really is the only way to learn it. We can read about it, we can endure, and who have endured the triumph. We can study ancient spiritual texts. We can use New Age inspirational books. We can consult psychotherapists. But in the end, life is the ultimate guru. And the pain, okay, pain, the most effective wake-up call. Life is the ultimate guru. Okay, life is the ultimate guru. So God is the ultimate, and then the guru that guides is life itself. It's the life unfolding within you, right? God is the ultimate, but our journey back to God, our journey back to remembering who we are, our waking up to our divine purpose, our divine self, right, is the fact that we engage in life. It's the life experiences. Now, wisdom itself has for so long been, minimized, right? Good morning, Michael. It's like, good morning, Betty. Thank you guys for saying good morning, because I can't really see who's on here until you guys say good morning. I don't know why it's doing that, but there you go. That's what's happening. And I love to say good morning to my people. So it literally, you guys, it our life is the guru, right? And it's our pain is our wake up call. And so we're on this journey trying to figure out what's going on. And literally, it's because we have to experience life and the wisdom itself. They have taken out the ability to say wisdom has any merit. That it has to be proven scientifically, that if we don't have studies that say that it's real, then how could it be real, right? And all that. Oh, I'm frozen. Can you hear my voice though? I think my voice is still working. It's just, I think the actual, I don't know what's going on with the video. Tell me if you could still hear my voice though. Can you hear my voice? Let me know. Let's see if I can do something real quick. I'm getting really irritated with this technology stuff. Can you guys hear my voice? Hello, hello, hello. Let's see. I can turn it up to see if you guys can hear my voice. I think my voice is still working. It's just, I think the actual, I don't know what's going on. the video. Tell me if you can still hear my voice though. Yeah, I think you guys can hear it. So I'll just continue talking. You'll just see me frozen. It won't make any sense to you, but it's okay. I'll figure it out eventually. I'll get this technology. Maybe I just need to upgrade my internet to a faster speed or something. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm not a technical person. I'm trying to figure this out. I would just do it old school way where I just put it on my phone. But that doesn't necessarily broadcast to everywhere. So who knows? Hello, Michelle. So you may not be able to see. Do you say it Michelle or Misael? Masael. Michelle. I don't know. I'm trying to make your name fancy, or maybe I don't know. Okay. So if you just hear my voice, just know that the voice is coming up in real time, and maybe I'll be making funny faces. You guys can laugh at the funny faces of the still screen or something. I don't know. So society itself is no longer recognized wisdom as, giving it merit or giving it value. It's like we need to, especially in the scientific world, I'll say that, in the academic world, right? It's like, no, if we can't for sure put, quantify it, or, that if we can't put it in a mathematical equation, then it must not fit. And if it doesn't fit, then, these emotions, or this wisdom that you're gaining from emotion has no meaning. Now, they've told us this, right? But literally, your wisdom is the most powerful thing you have. And in fact, when we started institutions and college and logic and thought and Plato and all these people were getting together, it really was a philosophical standpoint of wisdom, of contemplation, of experience, not just a measurement of something outside yourself, where science says, let me not participate in the actual experience of what I'm doing, but let me just observe it and see what happens. Now, observation itself is fine, okay, but what does that do to enrich our lives? Now, we've seen advancements. I'm not saying that we haven't seen any technical advancements, and I know science would say, well, we've done this and we've done that. Okay, cool, awesome. And has that made you happier in your own personal life? Like, where's the enrichment of the creativity, of allowing yourself to explore the internal wisdom that's available to co-create with life itself? The only way to co-create with life itself is to tap into the inner wisdom that you have. You can repeat experiments and you can set up experiments and look at them. But when you start to apply it to your life as what? As a way to engage your world, if it doesn't make sense and the experience is not enriching, then why would you do it? So it's, in other words, it's like our experience, right, is what allows us to enrich our lives. That wisdom of going through these things. No science can quantify your happiness. No science can quantify your pain and your grief. No science can say, I'm going to put something in you that allows you to process this. No, you have to be able to do the work yourself. And the wisdom that comes from that is far more valuable than a test in a lab. And people say, well, what about saving lives and all these things? Sure, but you're saving lives, and if the people that you are saving aren't happy, then what? If they're staying alive and just they're more miserable. You haven't taught society how to love their life, and yeah, maybe they want to live, but maybe they're living miserable. Maybe they don't want to live because they're miserable, because they don't know how to get out of it, because no one's ever taught them. Crazy society, I'm telling you. The wisdom that's there, right? And it's a wake-up call. So life is the ultimate guru. I love that. Now, and the pain is the most effective wake-up call. When we are in pain, we wake up. Think about the individuals who have health issues sometimes. They won't quit smoking, right? I work with people who smoke, so I do cessation support. And sometimes people, they're just smoking their whole life, and then boom, something happens, health-wise, and they're like, oh my God, I gotta stop this. It's a wake-up call to them. Like, I value my life. What am I doing, right? But until there's that catalyst or that something that wakes you up, then you're like, And I think about 2 years ago, I was telling everybody, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Why? Because I knew something huge was about to hit. I knew that we were about to go through some crazy, weird thing. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I just knew that it was going to happen. And the wake-up call was, if you were prepared when we hit this pandemic or when this all started to show up, and you had this wake-up call and you were allowing yourself to go through the pain and the grief of the emotional states of being, that you yourself literally probably are not having that much of a complication getting through this hard time. But if you were not prepared for the storm, it doesn't mean that you can't get through it. It just means it might be a little bit more challenging. Okay, that call came from, okay, so then she goes on to say, that call came for me 20 years ago when I gave birth to a beautiful boy who died 2 months later. Aaron's life and death are the ground in which this book is planted. It is his spirit that has guided me through the 13 long years of writing and living that this book entailed. Aaron was my master mentor, and Esther, born 15 years ago, with multiple disabilities, is the gifted continuing education teacher. A magical moment in the midst of serious medical crisis with Esther was my most powerful personal experience of the alchemy of fear to joy, chronicled in chapter 7. It was the moment of terror for my daughter's life that this book was conceived. The truth is, I didn't come to this book, it came to me. I have tried to be a faithful scribe and write as clearly as possible what I've been led to. So, again, this book was grounded in her own personal journey to understand her internal wisdom of the fear, the grief, despair, and the pain. That internal wisdom that guides every individual, that allows every individual to engage life into richer meaning. So it's a richer, enriched meaning that it gives us. And I keep talking about it from different perspectives, but the reality is these emotional states of being have power with them. There's power inside of them. It's uncomfortable, but the power that's available in them is phenomenal and amazing if you could allow yourself to actually go through it. Okay. In addition, my family background as daughter of 2 resilient survivors of the Holocaust has been the crucible in which my early awareness of grief, fear, and despair took shape. An awareness that has accompanied me all my life in its formative experience of life's work. I came to consciousness in the post-Holocaust era and live now. As well as we all do, in an ecocitical world torment by terror and violence, degraded by pollution, a world whose future is highly uncertain. My early awareness of dark emotions is in the aftermath of genocide is another aspect of personal genesis of what you read here. So you can say that she's been through a lot of stuff. And literally, it's not unless you've been through a lot of stuff do you gain the wisdom. And the only way to go through the dark emotions is to actually go through it. And we're going through the dark night of the soul right now, cosmically. And every individual's feeling it. And so I think it's timely that this particular reading is, I'm doing this particular reading. Why? Because for you guys to be able to understand that it's not a scary place, that it may be scary at first, but it's a place where we can go, not in fear, but a place that we can go with courage and the divine will, God's will, right? The will that is within us, so that we can start to drive energy forward, right? That we can go in there and we can do a deep dive. And yeah, it may be scary, but we have the courage within us to actually tackle this thing, to go in and to face it. And when we go into our subconscious mind, into the dark emotions, and we face it, and we come out as a warrior, grounded in principle. Literally, we won't compromise principle when we know how to deal with our dark emotions. We'll stand firm on solid ground with our staff. Think about Moses. Think about, okay, so he came down from the mountain, right? Now, I'm not a scholar of the Bible, but I do understand some of the stories of the Bible. I was raised Catholic. And we used to read the Bible when I was a child with my grandmother. But, and then the story of Moses has been, repeated time and time again. And so, think about it. He understood, he went through some dark stuff. He had to go through the darkness, right? Moses he wasn't dancing through the fields of daisies and and just dancing around. No, he went through this this huge challenge, right? And there was these dark emotions, but he understood how to utilize those emotions, right? He understood how to work with them, right? He went through it. He went through the darkness. And when he came out of the darkness, right, he went into the light, right, where they say, okay, well, he went up to the hill, he talked to God, God gave him instruction, whatnot. He had a staff, okay? That staff symbolizes the divine will of God. That's your divine will within you. You have a staff too. The only thing is we don't know how to stand firm in our staff because we can't even stand in our principles. We compromise our integrity all the time. Why? Because we're afraid to stand firm in our staff. Why? Because we're not going through the darkness. When you face the darkness, you're not afraid of it anymore. There's courage to overcome it. Now, I'm not saying fear doesn't arise within you, but you overcome the fear, or you work with the fear, and you find the courage within you to stand firm in your staff, and you take that staff in your divine will like Moses did, right? And then what happens, right? So you have this sort of Moses. What did Moses do? He came down with the templates. He said, this is God's law. And he stood firm and he said, we will not compromise our principles and our integrity. And as soon as they started to compromise integrity, he stood up and said no. But he wasn't afraid to say no. He didn't say, oh, okay, maybe they're not gonna like me. Maybe I shouldn't. Good morning, Louise. I hope you're still here. How are you? Haven't seen you in a while. Good morning, Jennifer. If you're on here, please say good morning. But with Moses' staff, right, and he didn't compromise his principles. Why? Because he had already faced the darkness. He didn't care if these people liked him or not. He wasn't worried about that. He wasn't here for a popularity contest. He wasn't trying to be popular. If he was, he would have never went over and said, yo, release my people. Because he wasn't trying to be popular. He was there to stand firm in spiritual integrity. Now, spiritual integrity takes a lot. Trust me, people are going to point fingers at you. They're going to slash you. But if you stand firm in principle, it's because you've gone through your dark emotions and you're not afraid to stand firm with your staff, which is the divine will of God. When God is with you, you hold your staff firm and you say, you know what? I'm not saying no because I don't love you. I'm saying no because I'm not going to compromise my integrity. And my integrity comes from something deeper. It comes from the wisdom of going through the darkness and meeting God. Letting God lead me through the darkness, right, into the light so that I can grab that staff. But you can't go grab your staff unless you go through the darkness. It's like this. It's like the staff is over there and you're in the dark. You're holding off the darkness. You're afraid to go through it, but your staff is waiting over there, and you have to have the courage to go through it so that you can grab your staff and stand firm. So all of the symbology, right? When we look at the Bible, when we look at the different stories, right? All these myth stories, everything like that, it has the symbology behind it. What does it mean? What did the staff actually mean? Why did Moses get a staff? What did that even? It's the will of God, the divine will. Wands, even if it's depicted in spiritual alchemy, we talk about the wands. The wands represents the fire within us. The fire symbolizes divine will. Divine will is what? The fire of God within us. It's the flame that burns within us. It allows the alchemy to help us. Courage. If we looked at fire, let's go deeper. Fire is related to Leo the lion, right? If you look at that particular sign, it's related to fire. Why is it related to fire? Because the symbol of the lion itself is courage and pride, okay? Now, there's this fine line, I've talked about it before, between ego and the divine will of God, right? So it's this is where the balance needs to come in, because people will have their staff, but it's not about being like, I'm right, you're wrong, and then having your pride over bubble in that fire. But it's standing firm and saying, I am not going to compromise my integrity of being vulnerable, of being love, of being whatever it is for you. I'm not going to compromise it just because. Why? Because you think I should. Spiritual integrity is a hard thing to do. Not easy. But we've got to get through the dark emotions in order to get there. Why? Because when we have the courage to go through them, we have the courage to stand firm with our staff. We're not afraid. We're not afraid of standing firm and saying, this is right for me, and it's doing good, it's not doing harm, I know why I'm doing this, and I'm not here to win a popularity contest. And it's okay if you ridicule, and it's okay if you crucify me. That's fine. Because I'm going to stand firm. That's what the dark emotions give us. They give us the strength and the power to stand in our personal integrity. Move through the fire. So, again, working through the dark emotions. Personal odyssey through the dark emotions as a path of sacred power are the backbone of everything this book has to offer. The narratives are threads that weave themselves throughout the book. I have intentionally made extensive use of my own story for a number of reasons. For one thing, my own stories are the ones I know best. As Thoreau said in Walden, I should not talk so much about myself if there's anybody else whom I knew as well. The details of this story is designed to give you a sense of contours and colors of alchemic journeys through the dark emotions, and to reassure you that these healing alchemies are possible even under very dire conditions. Okay? Reassurance that these healing alchemies. So if we started to see our dark emotions as healing alchemies, as a way to heal our internal sadness, if we learned how to use that internal darkness, right, as a way to heal rather than as a way to harm, then we can start to understand that that's not against us. They're not against us. They're for us. They're here to support us. So the journey through the dark emotions, go out, work on them, get your stuff, stand firm. You know, people always saying like, how do you do it? How are you so authentic? I can't, I said, I'm not a diplomatic person. I'm not here to play politics. I'm not going to be diplomatic. I'm going to say exactly what's going on. I'm going to be authentic and as vulnerable as possible. Is that going to make me the most liked person in the room? No, it's not. But everything I do is in love. Everything I do is for the greater good of humanity, not to harm. But I'm going to call things out the way I feel. And the thing is that sometimes it doesn't make me the most popular person. And that's okay. I'm going to be crucified over and over again. That's part of the journey. But to be brave enough to do it, right? Brave enough to get out there. I do Spirit and Coffee authentically. Why? Because I care. Does it help me? Yes. Hopefully it helps you guys. But it doesn't mean that I don't get to experience all of those hardships and heartaches. I've had people say stuff, right? Good morning, Larry. I've had people, bash me on here. I've had so much go on. And the reality is for me, all I care is that those people heal. And if they're angry, I hope that they can heal through their anger and frustration towards me. Because that's their dark emotions surfacing. And if they don't know how to redirect it, they're only harming themselves. They're not harming me. I know how to deal with that kind of stuff because I go through it. I allow myself to go through the process of it. And that's what I'm saying. And that's why I continue doing this. I've even had family members bash me. They still do. And for me, does it matter? No. I love them. I'm not mad at them. They have their own ideas about what they feel about me, and that's not my problem. At the end of the day, something inside them is harmed. If they feel like they have to say something to harm me, there's something internally in them that they're not facing. Do I pray? Yeah, of course. Pray for them. I want them to heal through these dark emotions. As we heal, we have no need to defend anything. We have no need to, good morning, Scott. We have no need to fight when we heal through ourselves. There's no need for it. Really, at all. So I hope this was helpful. As I always hope my stuff is helpful for you guys. But I hope you guys have a magical, marvelous, magnificent, it's solstice, so the moon was waxing apparently. I 100% don't know what that means, but it's okay. I do know that it was solstice, and that there's some pretty powerful energy out there for us today. So set your intentions today. I'm gonna probably go on my personal page for those of you and do a live video on intention, because that's what's happening today. But I'm gonna continue on this podcast reading the book of Spiritual Alchemy, Miriam Greenspan's book, and continue to support you guys through the dark emotions and getting through the dark emotions. But again, it doesn't happen unless you experience it. It's not about conceptualizing it and keeping it in your brain like I know all this stuff. Knowing it is one thing, but actually living it is a whole other thing. And trying to get you to drop from your head to your heart so that you can actually live it and go through it, and so that you can collect that staff and you can stand firm in your principles, okay? Or you can even set your principles if you don't even know what they are yet. Maybe you don't even have principles and values that you live by. Maybe you're just kind of living, but internally you have these values